Throughout the previous century, Saturday morning cartoons found inspiration for adaptations from a variety of media, including film, television, books, comic books, even bands and musicians. I like to cover all of these adaptations on my channel, and today we're looking back at the long history of video games being adapted into cartoons, or, if you like, cartoons that were based on video games. Separate videos could be made for anime series or 21st century adaptations, but today we're focusing solely on Western animation from the 20th century. We have a long list to get through today, but stay tuned to see if your favorite video game from the 80s or 90s was ever turned into an animated series. You may be surprised. And also let us know in the comments if there were any other video games that you would love to have seen adapted into an animated series. So, is Player 2 ready? Let's get started. The very first cartoon to be based on a video game was PacMan, which was produced by Hanna-Barbera Productions and debuted in 1982, 2 years after the release of the original Namco arcade game. The animated series followed the adventures of the titular character, PacMan, his wife Pepper PacMan, aka Miss PacMan, and their family who live in Pacland, a place in which the geography and architecture revolve primarily around sphere-like shapes. Most episodes of the series centered around the ongoing battle between the Pac family and their only known enemies, the Ghost Monsters, Blinky, Inky, Pinky, Clyde, and Sue, who all work for Mesmeron, a wizard whose main goal is to capture Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man, seize the Power Pellet Forest, and harness the energy of its power pellets to conquer Pacland. Pac-Man the animated series was a huge success. The cartoon ran for 2 seasons, 42 episodes in total plus 2 specials, and was the highest rated Saturday morning cartoon show in the US during late 1982. Its debut on ABC was watched by an audience of over 20 million in the US alone. The success of the show inspired ABC's rival CBS to create Saturday's Supercade the following year, which featured other video game characters from the golden age of video arcade games. Produced by Ruby Spears Productions, Saturday Supercade ran for 2 seasons, and while 26 episodes were aired, 97 segments in total were produced, with each segment centered around video game characters from various arcade video games, including Frogger, Donkey Kong along with Mario and Pauline from the Donkey Kong arcade game, Donkey Kong Jr., Q*bert, and Pitfall Harry, which was based on the home console game Pitfall. During the second season, Q*bert and Donkey Kong remained, while the Frogger, Pitfall, and Donkey Kong Jr. segments were replaced by shorts featuring Kangaroo and Space Ace from their respective eponymous arcade games. 1983 also saw the release of the animated version of Dungeons & Dragons, based on the popular role-playing game of the same name, and which was co-produced by Marvel Productions and Japanese animation company Toei Animation. Dungeons & Dragons focused on a group of 6 friends who are transported into the realm of Dungeons & Dragons and followed their adventures as they tried to find a way home with the help of their guide, the Dungeon Master, while combating classic antagonists like the evil Wizard Venger and the fearsome 5-headed dragon named Tiamat. D&D faced mild controversy due to the level of violence depicted in the show, but was popular enough to run for 3 seasons, with a total of 27 episodes produced. A final, unproduced episode would have served as both a conclusion to the story and as a reimagining of the show, had it been picked up for a 4th season. Dragon's Lair was an animated series by Ruby Spears Productions based on the 1983 video game of the same name, with 13 half-hour episodes produced and which aired on ABC from 1984 to 1985. The series chronicled the adventures of Dirk the Daring, reputedly the best knight in the kingdom, as he battles several enemies from the original game, including the Lizard King, the Phantom Knight, the Smithy, the Giddy Goons, and the Mudmen. One episode saw Dirk gradually being transformed into a skeleton, much like the death animations of the game. Pole Position was produced by Deke Enterprises and MK Company, but was only loosely based on the racing arcade game of the same name. The game and the series had very little in common, and Pole Position was cancelled after 13 episodes. September 1989 saw the debut of the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, a hybrid of animation and live action and the first of 3 television series to be based upon Nintendo's Mario video game series. The show revolved around Mario and Luigi, 2 Italian-American plumbers. The live-action segment served as a parody of contemporary sitcoms, dealing with the peculiarities of running a plumbing business in the late 1980s. The animated segments often parodied a book, movie, or historical event, and centered around Mario and Luigi in the Mushroom Kingdom, as they team up with Princess Toadstool and Toad to stop King Koopa from taking over the kingdom. The Super Mario Bros. Super Show also featured segments based on another popular Nintendo game, The Legend of Zelda. While the series differed from the video game, such as having the Princess Zelda featured in more of a protagonist role alongside Link, The Legend of Zelda also incorporated some elements from the first two games in the Zelda series, including sound effects taken directly from the game. The Legend of Zelda was not considered a success and was cancelled after 13 episodes. Later on, compressed versions of the episodes were shown along with another Nintendo-based cartoon, which was also produced by Geek Entertainment, Captain N the Game Master, the next entry in our list. Captain N the Game Master debuted in the same week as the previous entry and incorporated elements from many of the most popular Nintendo video games of the time. The character Captain N was originally known as Captain Nintendo when he first appeared in Nintendo Power magazine and was depicted as a Nintendo employee who had the power to temporarily give life to characters and items from Nintendo games. In the animated series, a young teenager named Kevin is destined to become the hero Captain N the Game Master and save Videoland from evil forces led by Mother Brain from the floating fortress called Metroid. Kevin teams up with the N team, consisting of Princess Lena as well as popular video game characters Simon Belmont, Kid Icarus, and Mega Man. In most episodes, the N team's enemy is a group of video game villains, usually led by Mother Brain accompanied by her minions, the Eggplant Wizard from Kid Icarus, the thuggish King Hippo from Punch-Out, and the scheming Dr. Wily from Mega Man. Several other Nintendo characters make recurring appearances, including Donkey Kong, the Count from Castlevania, and Dr. Light from Mega Man, to name only a few Nintendo games featured in Captain N the Game Master. The rise in popularity of home consoles in the 1990s saw a spate of related animated series released in the same decade, beginning with the second entry in the Mario series, The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, released in September 1990. Based on the eponymous video game, Super Mario Bros. 3 also revolved around Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Princess Toadstool's efforts to prevent King Koopa from taking over Princess Toadstool's Mushroom Kingdom. However, this time around the live-action segments were dropped and each episode maintained a level of continuity with the addition of several new characters, while also remaining more faithful to Mario gameplay, featuring enemies, power-ups, soundtracks, and sound effects seen in the games. That was followed up a year later by Super Mario World, based on the video game of the same name. Super Mario World featured the same voice actors who had performed in The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3, but replaced the character of Toad with Oocta, a clumsy cave boy who was not featured in the game series, and also introduced Yoshi as one of the main characters. Battletoads debuted in 1991 as a beat-em-up arcade game, and a pilot episode based on the game was produced by Geek Animation City in an attempt to capitalize on the popularity of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The story served as a prequel to the video game franchise and starred 3 junior high schoolers who are given the ability to transform into anthropomorphic toads with superhuman strength and the ability to change their arms and legs into weapons. The pilot episode was not produced as a full series, but an interesting coincidence was that the pilot episode was written by screenwriter David Wise, who just happened to share the same name as the composer of the soundtrack for the original Battletoads game. Airing in 1993, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was based on the smash hit Sega series Sonic the Hedgehog, and served as the first of 3 separate Sonic animated series in the 1990s. Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was a light-hearted and gag-driven adventure series based on the titular character, a teenage hedgehog with the power to move at supersonic speeds. Sonic, along with his young friend Tails, regularly opposed the main antagonist Dr. Robotnik and his robot henchmen as the two thwart their plans to conquer their home planet of Mobius. Later that same year saw the debut of Sonic the Hedgehog, also produced by Geek Animation. The show featured a darker and more dramatic story than the lighter adventure series, depicting Sonic as a member of a band of freedom fighters battling to overthrow Dr. Robotnik, now a despotic dictator who had conquered their home planet Mobius years prior, ruling it as a polluted industrial dystopia. To distinguish it from other Sonic the Hedgehog media, the series is commonly referred to by fans as SatAM, in reference to its Saturday morning time slot. 1999 saw the third and final Sonic cartoon of the decade, Sonic Underground, also produced by Dick and also featured the voice talents of Jaleel White, who voiced the character of Sonic in the previous two series. Sonic Underground differed from all other Sonic the Hedgehog media, where Sonic has two siblings, Sonia and Manic, that are collectively part of a royal family, and upon Dr. Robotnik's takeover of Mobius, encounter other resistant groups, all the while searching for their long-lost mother, Queen Alina. Back to 1993, Double Dragon was an animated series based on the NES versions of the Double Dragon video game trilogy, and released a year before the full-length live-action feature film. The original Double Dragon was a hit arcade video game, ushering in a golden age for the beat-em-up genre and resulting in a flood of beat-em-ups that followed the conventions set by Double Dragon. In contrast, however, both the animated series and the live-action movie were panned by critics and audiences, although both did eventually receive an official home video release. Mutant League was a 1994 animated series based on the video games Mutant League Football and Mutant League Hockey, released in 1993 and 1994 respectively. 40 episodes were produced in total, and while the first season was a bit of a mess with very little continuity, the second season was a lot more grounded with more developed characters and more poignant stories and issues. The Capcom character Mega Man, as well as his nemesis Dr. Wily, had already made their animated debuts in Captain N the Game Master, and in 1994 the Mega Man video game was adapted into an animated series entitled Mega Man, co-produced by Ruby Spears Productions and Ashai Productions, which ran for 2 seasons. The 1994 series would be the first of many Mega Man animated productions, and was the only American-produced series until the release of Mega Man Fully Charged in 2018. Carmen Sandiego made her debut in the 1985 computer game Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and went on to enjoy many television adaptations, including a game show based on the video game franchise, until she finally got her own show in 1994, entitled Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego. The show follows the plot of the Carmen Sandiego franchise and sees international thief Carmen Sandiego lead the organization Vile in stealing treasures from around the world and leaving clues behind for Acme agents Zack and Ivy to find. In this version, Carmen Sandiego is a former agent of Acme who left to seek a greater challenge and has a strong code of ethics when stealing items. The player is an unseen live-action character who bookends acts by communicating with Carmen. It is implied that the television series is a video game being played from a computer. Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego won a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Children's Animated Program in 1995, and in the same year was spun off into a video game entitled Carmen Sandiego Junior Detective. Darkstalkers was a fighting game series developed by Capcom and which debuted in 1994, and that same year saw the release of an animated adaptation, simply called Darkstalkers. As the television series was aimed towards a young audience, the violence and adult content present in the games were toned down, and in addition, rather than following the complex backstory of the games, the show went for a standard good versus evil plot, and also included a new protagonist, a young wizard boy named Harry. As a result of all these changes, as well as a low budget, the series was received negatively, both as an adaptation and as an animated series, mainly amongst fans who compared the show to the production values of the original games. 13 episodes were produced, and Darkstalkers was cancelled after the first season. Earthworm Jim is a series of platform games featuring an earthworm named Jim, who wears a robotic suit and battles the forces of evil. The series is noted for its surreal humor and edgy art style, and many of these elements were present in the 1995 animated adaptation, which starred Dan Castellaneta as the voice of the titular character. Most episodes involve the series' numerous villains attempting to reclaim the supersuit or conquer the universe, while some episodes have Jim facing more mundane issues, such as returning his neighbor's egg beater or finding a new power source after his suit's battery runs out. The series spawned a toy line and 2 related comic book series, while aspects of the show, such as newly created characters or vibrant art style, were later implemented in future video games, Earthworm Jim 3D and Earthworm Jim Menace to the Galaxy. Capcom's legendary arcade game Street Fighter II was developed into an animated feature-length film in 1994 and then again into an animated series the following year. Simply titled Street Fighter, the show was closely based on the Street Fighter II series, but also borrowed plot elements and characters from the live-action Street Fighter film, as well as the first 2 Street Fighter Alpha games. It also featured elements from other Capcom games, such as Saturday Night Slam Masters and Final Fight. Street Fighter centered on Colonel William F. Guile as the leader of the Street Fighters, an international undercover peacekeeping force composed of martial artists from around the world, who often face off against the ruthless General Bison and his Shadaloo criminal empire. Mortal Kombat was another massively popular fighting arcade game which was developed into an animated series in 1996 entitled Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm, which focused on a group of warriors from the video game series who are assembled by Raiden to defend Earthrealm from invaders from other dimensions. Showa Khan was something of an arch-villain throughout the series, but only appeared in 4 of the series' 13 episodes. Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm served as an alternative sequel to both the first Mortal Kombat live-action film and the events of Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. Wing Commander Academy was a 1996 animated adaptation of the Wing Commander flight simulation franchise, and which loosely served as a prequel to the entire game series. Wing Commander Academy featured many spacecraft introduced in the Wing Commander video games, while individual episodes also featured cameo appearances from ships introduced in later games. The show also featured a variety of talented voice actors, including Mark Hamill, Thomas F. Wilson, Malcolm McDowell, and Dana Delaney. Donkey Kong Country was released in 1997 and was based on a Nintendo game of the same name, which served as a reboot of the Donkey Kong franchise. The show centered around Donkey Kong, who is the resident hero of Congo Bongo Island, and chosen as the island's future ruler by a magical artifact known as the Crystal Coconut, which he must protect from various threats. Each episode of Donkey Kong Country featured 2 musical numbers performed by the show's various characters, and several elements of the series, such as the Crystal Coconut, appeared in later Donkey Kong video games like Donkey Kong 64, released 3 years later. Donkey Kong Country was also the first television series to be primarily animated with motion capture technology. And finally, do you guys remember RayMan? Well, you might not know that RayMan had his own animated series. Kinda. RayMan the Animated Series was a series of animated short films created by Ubisoft in 1999, based on the RayMan video game series and following the success of RayMan 2: The Great Escape. It was meant to be a series of 26 episodes, but only 4 were completed before it was cancelled mid-series and was only broadcast in France, Holland, and Germany. Although very rare, the RayMan animated series is available on VHS, DVD, and YouTube. And that's a wrap for the 20th century. I'd like to thank you for watching all the way with me, and I hope this video took you back to Saturday mornings of yesteryear that were filled with both cartoons and video games. I tried to make this list as comprehensive as possible, so please let me know in the comments if there were any video game adaptations I may have left out. The next video is already in the pipeline, so stay tuned for more upcoming cartoon history, and until then, thank you for watching. See you soon.